page. Now, one of the things which, gets us all going is the VIP PPE lane, Michelle Mone being the most famous awardee of a contract. And there seems to be, in all the polling, some sense that there is an immense amount of corruption which is ongoing within government. Now, this is something that you see on the front pages every day, but on the front page of the Sunday Mirror today is something quite different. We spoke to Peter Geoghegan yesterday, who's been digging into the reports on Infosys. Now, Infosys is a huge Indian IT company which was founded by Rishi Sunak's wife's parents. Between them, they own about £2.5 billion worth of shares in the company, just to put that forward. So I want to talk to Peter now about this news story, really. He's an investigative reporter and author of Democracy for Sale. Peter, tell us about this news story.
Hi, Karen. Thank you very much for having me on the show again. This story, which is on the front page today, Sunday Mirror, is all about a trade minister, Dominic Johnson. Dominic Johnson he's investment minister. He's actually also a former vice chairman of the Tory party and a Tory donor as well. And what Dominic Johnson's job involves is kind of going around the world looking for investment opportunities for Britain.
Yeah.
And as part of this, he was in India last April and he met executives from Infosys, which is, as you say, is a company effectively founded by Rishi Sunak's father-in-law. Mm. And while he was there, he told Infosys that he would, quote, do what he could to ensure that the company was able to grow its business in the UK. He talked about how important the relationship is and that he would continue to engage at a ministerial level as requested to help Infosys. He talked about what could he do effectively to help this company that's growing in the UK. And this is the companies reported last week that have had a lot of public contracts, especially in recent years, have just been put on a series of big government framework contracts as well. And I think it does, it begs some of these questions about access to government and who gets access and who doesn't.
Well, I think it does. I mean, Rishi Sunak put Lord Dominic Johnson, who was put into the House of Lords by Boris Johnson, no relation, he put him in the position as minister. As you say, his job, as an investment minister, is to regularly meet international investors and so on. And then he talks to and encourages and says he's there and available for Infosys, which is the man who's put him in the position as minister's in-law's company. I mean, it surely begs the question of at least a conflict of interest.
Yes, and quite remarkably, I think the ethics advisor in the Parliament, in the British Parliament last year, ruled that Rishi Sunak doesn't even have to declare his wife's holding in Infosys. Akshata Murty owns about 39 million shares worth about £625 million in the company. And that doesn't even have to be registered in Rishi Sunak's declaration ministerial interests. And I think that's the kind of thing which, you can see, these are wheels within wheels, but the very fact that that's not even declared, there isn't even that basic level of transparency I think a lot of people would expect from something like this.
And I know that both Labour and the Lib Dems are up in arms about this. They're saying it's VIP access, and Lib Dems demanding full transparency. And I think, as an investigative reporter, how difficult is it to uncover this kind of information?
Well, this story is very interesting, actually. This came from an FOI request. I had put in an FOI request, and so had one of my friends, a fellow journalist, Russell Scott. We both asked, interestingly, it's interim journalists are in the same space. We both asked the government. We'd noticed that Infosys had a meeting with Dominic Johnson. It was declared in these registers that are published, albeit published often very late, probably about 6 months late. Very little says about it. I think we probably said a meeting to discuss, business opportunities in the UK. Both Russell and I put in an FOI request asking for information. We both got rejected out of hand. Russ put in what's called internal appeal, asking, can I have some of this information? And actually, for once, the department turned around and actually did release some of these documents. And this is months after these initial requests were made. These requests would have been made, 3, 4, 5, 6 months ago. So eventually, belatedly, we were given some information. And I think what's interesting about this is you can kind of get a sense that goes beyond just a couple of words about we met to discuss business opportunities. In the meeting they're talking about, there's actually an interesting line where one of the briefing documents says that despite Brexit, Infosys has not stalled their plans for UK growth. They're talking about that there were two. Yes, it's just not something that many government ministers would say publicly. And that you kind of get much more of a flavour of what's going on. I think it does also just beg this question. It's so hard to get information from the government. Someone like I, as an investigative reporter, I'm constantly sending FOI requests, just constantly trying to get information. Yeah. And it's really, really hard. And even
it is
basic
difficult.
types of information are published.
And since that meeting in April last year, Infosys have been put onto 2 huge frameworks, which involve other companies as well, for a total of £750 million. That's not saying that all that money is going to Infosys. That's saying that they're put on there. But Peter, thank you for that. Keep at it, and it's very interesting. I should say that Infosys were approached for comment by Peter, and they didn't respond. And the Department for Business and Trade response is the investment minister regularly meets businesses and international investors, including a range of Indian businesses, to champion the UK as an investment destination and secure commitments worth billions of pounds. Right, so